Did you see two people climb the top of the radio antenna on top of the Empire State Building?
They still couldn't figure out kind of how they got there, but they did. And then it got proposed.
Really insane.
And then
Yes,
the paper commented and said,
Okay.
it's one of the best places in the country to propose. I'm like, yeah, if you don't fall off.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, they said it's one of the best spots in the country to propose. I'm like, so far I've only seen one in the paper.
I didn't like see harnesses or wire.
I didn't either.
And-
I didn't either. And they had a video where they were walking and like you could see it and I was like, I could not do that.
Taking Gene.
Yeah, I was,
There is a Gene,
Yes, for sure.
or maybe
well,
multiple ones.
if there is one, they have it.
Yeah, okay. That's working. Just doing tech stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Tech away.
Thank you,
Love
thank
that.
you.
Dave texted me to say he was stuck in traffic in Nashua and he would be late. And Trisha said that she would, if she can make it, she'll be late. And who else? Is that the rest of the crew?
No, that's not true.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
not Nick
And Norm,
and Norm. So I'll give it 2 more minutes.
I can be Don and Craig if you need me to be. So.
I'm done.
Oh, Don. And you should,
My sitting
and you should probably
Dunning
be
is
Don.
no longer on the committee, so. It's
yeah, I don't
time
think
to
Craig,
be
I don't think
retired.
Craig's even on the committee, is
No,
he?
he doesn't.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
but you can vote for him anyway.
I think maybe I'm still a probie. I can get a name badge till I got a secret, double secret probation.
Take 'em off.
Okay, I'm gonna turn back on the recording. We are live on YouTube. Here we go.
Hello to our audience of many viewers.
Honestly, we could live stream in this on Twitch and I really feel like we could get a following. Be really good.
I don't even know what Swish is.
It's a platform in which you live stream yourself while you're usually playing video games, but you can also be talking about other things or having other commentary, but generally it's around popular video games. So if we could all game at the same time, that would be ideal for the
Yeah.
Twitch
You have
audience.
to be an influencer,
All right.
so to speak.
Well, thank you all for being here on this extremely hot evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's now 5:34. And I think I'm going to skip right down to number 4, which I'm really excited about because we have Sam Durfee here, who is on the planning board as an alternate, but also is a professional planning manager with the city of Nashua. And Sam and I had a really good conversation the other week before presentation to the planning board on the 9th, which I will report on later. And Alyssa can help me on that. And at that planning board meeting, there was also a really fruitful discussion, I thought, that sort of led to a sort of, what's next in terms of things that this committee wants to focus on, that the planning board sees as also important to sort of helping move things forward on the housing front. So, I thought that Sam could be particularly helpful to us as a planner and a member of the planning board to sort of help us think about what should we be working on next? What should our priorities be for the 2028 town meeting? So Sam, if you want to come up and join us.
Yeah.
You can be Greg.
Yeah, right there. And thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I thought we had a really good discussion with the planning board, and you were one of the people leading that discussion. And so it just seems natural for us to sit here tonight and kind of follow on that, and love to get your thoughts. You've seen the Barrett Group report, and you know that we're in the process of trying to sift through many recommendations and figure out, what makes sense, what matters, what's practical, what would be acceptable, what would be impactful, all that. So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thanks for having me tonight. Sam Durfee. I live at 98 Park Ave in town, and I am a professional planner, have been for greater part of 2 decades. I want to just say that I'm speaking from the perspective of a professional planner. I'm not speaking on behalf of the planning board. I'm not speaking on behalf as the planning director for the city of Nashua. Simply just having
I
done
was gonna
planning.
ask you that question.
Having done planning for a long time, I'm just speaking from past experience and what I've seen. Before I was a planner in Nashua, I worked in the City of Concord's planning office. Before that, I was a planner with CNHRPC, so Mike Tardif's office out of Concord as well. Having done work in Hopkinton many years back as well. So yeah, I can really talk in any direction, but I want to be helpful to this group and understand priorities and what we should focus on. I think I'll just start by saying I draft land use regulations for a living, and I've been doing that for some time. And I find it most helpful to start with the end goal in mind. Like if whatever the goal is, paint that picture as clearly as you can, and then we work from where we are today to that. So a question that could kind of start that is, say it's 2030. We've had 20 new units come online in town in the past 2 years, and everybody loves them. But where are they, and what do they look like? So if focusing this on housing, what is good housing in the Hopkinton context? If we can define that, we can get there from a regulatory standpoint.
I mean, I will say, an obvious balancing that needs to be done. We've heard from people, they really want to see more diversity, more options, more supply. But we've also heard we like the character of the town, and we don't want to alter it significantly. So I think all of us on this committee recognize that there's always going to be some balancing that needs to be done, or some tension between those two. How do you do it thoughtfully in a way that's not going to change the way people feel about the way the town feels and looks? So anyway, that just
So,
one thought.
yeah, so clearly, for Nashua, right? I mean, one of the things that Jack alluded to was the character of the town, right? So you'll hear commentary regarding R3, R4. Maybe that's not an issue in Nashua, right? Maybe that's not an issue in Concord, right? But in smaller towns like this, similarly, it does seem to be something of an issue, right? And we did a study, or not a study, just to sort of, Tricia asked all of us to reach out to different towns like ours to see kind of what they allowed, what they didn't allow, that type of thing. And that was some feedback that I heard, that here's what they try to do, right? In keeping the town sort of their character in place.
Yeah.
I don't think that's as much of an issue for, say, a Nashua or a Concord. But so like, how do we sort of talk through that?
Yeah, no, I'm glad that
Can I actually answer Sam's question? His initial one, which is, if it's, 2030 and 20 new units have come online and everyone loves it, what are they actually talking about? What they are talking about is a mixture of senior housing. They're talking about housing for folks who are new to town or are getting their first
Affordability.
independent place. And they're talking about it in infill areas of Kentucky Village, where it is walkable and accessible for folks, either who have young children or who are older and don't want to be driving all over the place. And what I love about your question is it doesn't ask me to say where in the village it's going, right? It's not asking me to point at the property map, but I'm saying holistically, that is what they're saying. They're not saying, I love that new development out on that rural dirt road that we put in that moved 20 families in. They're not saying that. What they're saying is they love these small, quality, affordable homes, condos, townhouses, choose your whatever, that are whether it's in the village as we currently define it or in the village as we potentially expand it, because the walkability goes much further than where the commerce is in the village. So yeah, that's what they're talking about in 2030
Awesome. That's super helpful.
for me. I see other people nodding. Don.
I would say too, when we think about development in Hopkinton, we've had Hopkins Green comes up a lot. Everyone talks about how great that looks. And could that be duplicated even on a smaller scale? Because the houses there are expensive. They're not, they're not affordable. So how do you get that kind of development with affordability, part of the conversation as well?
So building on what was said, I would see cottage style homes like in rows or connected. Some could be townhouses, but nicely or architecture. With that are affordable. They don't have to be huge,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they have to be livable and walkable.
Mhm.
And I like personally, I mean, I would qualify for the old people's places. But I like mixed housing. I like to be around children.
Yeah.
I don't want to be off in a gated community for old folks who worry about everything. I want to have vitality.
Diversity of ages, diversity of
Exactly.
incomes, that makes a
Exactly.
healthy community.
I agree with you, but there are people that like seniors on 55.
And
And for that.
there's options for that, right?
There are.
You know, I was down in Connecticut visiting my friend. And she had a condo in Jaffrey after she retired. And just because of health issues, she had to move to Concord near Connecticut near her daughter. And they had some really nice, she has a beautiful place. She pays the full rent. But there are people in there, nobody knows who's who, but some are subsidized. And it's just a nice little community.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I want to tie two things together. What the housing looks like in character, right? So yeah, community character, that comes up all the time. But when you get into kind of a more granular analysis of character, we have an abundance of community character and it is different everywhere, right? So Gould Hill is character, the villages are characters, but they're completely different. They're not even remotely the same because it's lot sizes, it's how big the buildings are, their relationship to the street. It's the built form, how buildings relate to the public space, that being the roadway, the sidewalks, public squares, like that. The combination of all of that is what gives a place feeling, right, and character, right? So we're in my current job, we're 3 years in, we're at the tail end of a comprehensive land use code update. We are throwing out the old code and completely starting from scratch and writing a new code. And it's a form-based code. That means that the focus is really on the building form, the architecture, because we've heard from the community that we've gotten direction that character preservation is paramount. But we have so many neighborhoods in Nashua and all the character is very different. However, there's a lot of patterns, right? And so the idea, we go out with our consultants and we survey buildings. We're literally measuring window widths and understanding patterns and rhythms in the built environment. New England has such rich historic architecture that has evolved over the years, but you can still recognize it. You might not be able to define it, without maybe being a trained architect, but when you see it, right? So the idea with form-based standards is, we hear you, this character is good, we want more of it. So we write the standards that basically quantify the qualitative look and feel of neighborhoods and buildings and districts to be able to perpetuate growth in a way that's acceptable. Right. So it's not like we're going to be introducing buildings of huge scale or straight walled brick, 6 stories tall. There are a lot of architectural details that need to be incorporated to make buildings acceptable to the existing character. So form-based standards will just kind of pin that as a way of something that we could explore and talk about, and how we shape development in a way that makes it more palatable and fitting within the context of where it's being built.
I was going to ask you specifically about that, Dawn, when you mentioned cottages that were architecturally pleasing,
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
just a box, you know?
Right.
Right.
To what extent can the planning board mandate that? And would there be any legal
Yeah.
challenges against that?
I mean, you can challenge anything.
Well, I
Whether
know-
you'll win is another thing, right?
Well, do you know the history of any challenges to architectural mandates?
It's not necessarily that you'll get challenged and lose. So form-based standards, that is known as an innovative land use type. There's enabling state legislation around that. Municipalities are empowered to create those. There could be a situation where you are asking for architectural standards that are lofty, we'll say, really idealistic, that either from an engineering or an architectural standpoint, like physically cannot be done. Or you get the other side of it where we want, X, Y, and Z. Well, there goes your affordability, because you've priced affordability out by requiring certain design. When developing these standards, it's hugely important to be consulting with professionals in the field who can give you that insights of like, oh yeah, you want, crown molding throughout the interior. Well, right. Whatever it is, some architectural feature, they can put a number on that. And you can also say, we're exploring right now, pre-approved building plans, right? So say someone's like, oh, I want to build an ADU on my house. This is generally what I want to look like. And then we can say, oh yeah, here's our catalog. Go flip through these pre-approved plans. You can then buy the license to those plans. It doesn't have to go through plan review with the building official. They've already been approved. It's a way of expediting, but then you're also selling them character, right? So that's just another approach. And that can be applied at any scale. You could do that from attached or detached ADUs to cottages, through townhouses. You could do it through, massive apartment buildings. It's a concept that scales.
Because what you're looking for there is you're just looking at the outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is then to be able to replicate character, but you don't want cookie cutter, right? So there's natural variability between houses. We have approximately like 28 building types in the Nashua Code. That's what we're developing, right? We'll have cottages, house, large house. A lot of this is defined by the massing. So just the box, right? And the dimensions of that box. Is it square? Is it a rectangle? Right? And then you can add on attachments like components, porches, side wings, rear wings, the things that you begin to, okay, now we're assembling a building. Now we're making it unique. We're making it interesting. And they're also adding square footage. Maybe that rear wing is another unit. Maybe those bay windows help to get light into a space that make an area more livable. There's things like that we get pretty detailed with the code in Nashua, and it's been really fun to explore. But all of this is really just to paint a picture of the options that are available under state enabling legislation. The language is not specific, which is a blessing and a curse, because if you lack direction, you don't really know where to go. But if you have vision, you have consultants who really can push the boundaries, you can really tailor things to fit the character of the community.
So just to bring Dave up to speed quickly, who was stuck in traffic. Sam started off by saying, although he is on the planning board as an alternate and he is the planning manager for Nashua, he is here in his own capacity. And his sort of first question for us was, before you start talking about writing things into your code, what's your goal? What do you want your housing to look like? And so we've just been sort of batting that around.
Okay.
So that's a quick and dirty
I
summary.
apologize to you and everybody for
No,
tardy.
no.
Good.
Sam, I had one question. I don't know if this gets us off track. You might want to just park it to the side, but the one thing I wonder about is, my vision is I'd like to see, significantly more housing units added in the next 5 to 10 years. And my concern is we can't do that just by focusing in the high density districts. And so that gets to Dean's concern, which is, well, I like R3 the way it looks.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. I mean, one thought that I have is, you know, in some of the R3 and R4 areas, you could be on a side street and have a conservation subdivision
Mhm.
where I don't think it would ruin the character of the town. You know, at the same time, there are areas, you know, where townhouses probably wouldn't look really good. Which was part of the discussion with the planning board that we had about the Amesbury
Oh, yeah,
neighborhood.
right,
And Sam pointed out like that's not gonna look good like that,
yeah.
you know, so, but I'm curious, you know, about your thoughts about, you know, can we get enough housing out of the areas with high and medium density, or are we gonna have to look at some of the outlying areas?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the words that was used earlier was diversity, right? So to get a diversity of housing stock, you need a diversity of contexts in which to do development. So there will be development in the R4 and the R3, but they're going to be large houses on large lots with a lot of space between them. I mean, that's what
To be,
no, that's the way the zoning is written right now.
Yeah.
But that is also the character that's there, right? So say that's a focus, right? You know, obviously you got to weigh things against, you know, what's palatable at town meeting, right? You know, I wouldn't say, let's go allow apartment buildings in R4. I mean, not only from a character breaking standpoint, I mean, there's infrastructure concerns associated with it, but you know, we don't have to go down that road right now. You know, I think where you have the ability to deliver housing, it's going to be, I mean, land acquisition costs are significant, right? And so Dean and I were talking earlier, and I will bring this back around, trust me. There are the two ends of the equation in development we absolutely can't touch. From regs just don't touch it. Cost of construction and what the rents are or what the sale price is, right? So the beginning and the end, right? So we are the sausage making in the middle. You know, our regulatory process can add time and expense and litigation and all those things that make that end number more expensive, but we cannot move cost of construction. And we don't want the rents to keep rising, which they kind of have to do anyways to keep pace with rising costs of construction, but we don't want to add any costs through our process, right? So streamlining process is one deal. And part of that, part of what the municipality can do is take real stock of like where development opportunity is. You know, that's open land for development. That's do we have infrastructure in the ground, right? Do we have water and sewer? We do in town, not a lot of it, in systems that aren't in fantastic shape, but you know, those are quote unquote like sunk costs. We might as well leverage those investments that we've already made and extract as much tax revenue out of it, because those are long-term obligations on behalf of the town, right? We will always have to be maintaining them or not. I mean, that's a kind of a whole other conversation. So why not focus on those areas? And I think when we talk about diversity, there's a lot of diversity in the villages, right? You have a lot of different building types. This is where you can do those multi-unit buildings, you know, even in the village context, single family works, you know, but the land value increases as you get to the center of town. And with that higher land value, you need a more productive building to, you know, balance out the taxes. And we're have a backward state where we tax our improvements so much more than we tax the land value, and it disincentivizes investment and development. Whole other conversation. But again, so with diversity, to get diversity, you need a diverse context already. You can't really create diversity out in R4, R4 and R3 without a really significant visioning conversation with the community about what that could look like. Again, I'm kind of just balancing this with like, you know, how does the community receive this, right? We talk about community character so much. That's really important. So you don't want to destroy the character, but we also want to create housing. And there are contexts where a conservation subdivision is a fantastic example where, you know, that does work with the community values of being able to preserve land. And if you can take a large parcel, maybe 20 acres, and you're able to conserve 60% of that, but then the give is greater density on the developable portion of the land. That's a conversation and a trade-off that the community needs to have of, is this worth it? So
We got some pushback on that. That was one of the recent proposals to the planning board. And
Yeah.
it's the poor folks across the street
Oh, on a
who have to
particular-
look at it, right? And
Yes.
and they say, well, we have nothing but woods over there. Now we have 7 homes facing us, and they're right across the street.
Right.
That's what they didn't plan on when they bought where they bought.
So
So,
if we can pull on that example a little bit, right? So that development, they're all frontage lots, right? So they're long, narrow lots. You have a bunch, you have
right.
6 driveways all coming out onto the road, right? That is one form of conservation subdivision. Another form is you have one road that goes in, loop or whatever,
Yeah.
and then that's, okay, well, from a developer's perspective, now I have to build a road.
Well, it's
Like that's a
extra.
huge expense, right? And then the long-term maintenance of that, right now, we don't allow private roads in Hopkinton. We have to accept the road and assume the long-term maintenance obligations of that road. But from a regulatory perspective, if there's a determination that we don't want to see those frontage lots, we really want to see single access. Okay, well, the developer says, okay, now, well, you're giving me a requirement to build a road. That's expensive. I'm going to need additional density to make the development work. Trade-offs, right? So you're trading more more density for a given aesthetic, and it's a value judgment.
Aren't they already getting increased density through the conservation subdivision?
Yes,
Yeah, there were smaller lot sizes.
yeah.
But I mean, as it's written today, and I think that's Sam's point, as it's written today, there wasn't anything the planning board, I think, can do to change the way that's going to look. It's like you want 7 across the front, you get 7 across the front. And while you feel bad for the folks on the other side of the road, you can make suggestions to the developer, but building a road is not, something that you can demand,
Right.
or changing the look of the house or turning it sideways and doing something different, type thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't a tool to be used.
Land regulation in New Hampshire is really tricky, in the sense that it's all incentive based. Our municipalities' hands are really tied, like we can't mandate things, which frankly is probably for the best, right? By mandating stuff, you're potentially saying we need X, Y, and Z, and developers walk away and say we can't afford that, we're not going to do business in town. But the flip side of that is if it's all incentive driven, so with density bonuses, we don't have a lot of ability to do tax incentives in this state. A new regulatory scheme really has to be tested, and it has to be tested against the market, understanding interest rates, cost of construction, everything that goes into that, but then counter it with community character goals and ambitions. What we're doing with the new code in Nashua is we are taking hypothetical developments and we're trying to break them. It's like, well, how do we get, a mixed use development on this big box store has run its depreciation schedule into the ground. It's ready to turn over. We've got 20 acres. How do we develop a new neighborhood here, right? What are the incentives? Can we give them higher density? Can we give them flexible districts? Can we give them more intense building types, resulting in more units? Because again, that's that end of that equation where they can get more money out of it in exchange for things that move the needle on community values, like more open space, publicly accessible parks and playgrounds, deed restricted affordable housing, so it's all this give and take, but to get these numbers to work, they have to be tested. And that takes a lot of work, and it takes professional consultants who know how to do this. And it costs money. But I'm talking from a Nashua context where we are expecting 5,000 new units by 2030. And we want to do that in a meaningful way. That's not just here are rows and rows and rows of the same 150 unit apartment buildings. No, we want diversity. We want to reestablish or establish for the first time neighborhoods, which you have a diversity of street types, you have a diversity of building types on that. So how do you do that from a regulatory standpoint?
So 5,000 units would not just be apartments, they could be anything.
Yeah,
It could be a house, single family house, that's still a unit in your.
of course, from a
Right.
delivery of capital standpoint, the most effective way to do that is through apartment buildings.
Correct.
Right? But
Right.
we want all, we have, I think everywhere, there's a market for basically everything at every price point. And really, like, someone will buy it. You build it, you buy it. Doesn't really matter what you're building, someone will buy it. So while we may come at a development with our own preconceived notions of like what is good, we're already in our homes. You know, we don't have to buy it, right? You know, we don't have to agree with what someone's building because that's for somebody else. We may not like it because it's not what we grew up with, but that's okay. We don't have to move there.
You had a question earlier, you said, where can we develop? How does Nashua like answer that question?
Through analysis. Yeah, we've done a ton of mapping. I mean, not only from, it's not just a housing question, right?
Is that your department or?
Oh, yeah,
is that-
yeah. It's a broader economic development conversation, zoning conversation. What are we trying to attract? Housing? Well, we should look at these areas for X, Y, and Z reasons. We want to attract industry. Well, all right, let's look at the Everett Turnpike and our major corridors, and transportation is really, and access is really important, right? So depending on what the goal is, again, start with the goal in mind and kind of work backwards from there.
See, I think what we've looked at trying to make this committee and the planning board, making the ordinances a little less onerous, right? To someone who wants to develop something. But I don't think we talked last time, remember, about town-owned property and how we could do something there, right? And maybe we can, maybe we can't, but I don't think we've ever looked at like, where could we develop from the housing committee perspective? And where is that? Right? What does that look like? Or what could that look like?
So you're saying, so to tie this back, where and what does it look like? Analysis needs to be done of like, if you have funding from a bank, you have $5 million to do a development in
We
town.
got a bank person.
What piece of property are you buying? Right? What is available for development? Assume, $25,000 per unit for acquisition costs. That's what you can stomach. Add all that together. What do you have to get from a unit count? Okay, so now I'm buying a piece of property in the village. It's an acre and a half, maybe. And with this, you do your calculation. Okay, I need 15 units to make that work. What does that look like then? I mean, take the context of the downtown character. We might have a 4-story building. Basically you have storefronts, right? On the ground floor, you have apartments above. Mixed use buildings are notoriously difficult to finance because there's so much unpredictability. Not only do you have the turnover and the rentals, but then you have finding the tenants, keeping the tenants on the retail side of things.
Calvin can tell you about this.
They're the best buildings, but they're challenging.
The biggest problem we faced recently is insurance. Our insurance company that we had for 25 years dropped us. Not for the 2 apartment buildings we own in Concord because they're totally residential, but for the mixed use and this is a major insurer. They didn't want to cover mixed use buildings anymore. So the first year we were scrambling and had to find something quick. And the price went from about $4,000 a year to $11,000.
Yeah.
Stayed with them for the year that we were obligated, because you're kind of obligated with some of them, or you have to pay back, Found another company that was 8 and just got the new notice. It's now 9, over 9. So, people are concerned about rents, but between property taxes and what's happened with insurance and now oil as well.
Right.
Very nervous come fall as to what's going to happen because that building that we pay the heat for, the heating bill could double, and that would be an increase of more than $10,000, perhaps quite a bit more.
There is going to be a state heat pump rebate program that you might be eligible for. I can give you information later.
Okay, yeah.
And not to speak for Leanne or Mike Vance, the other owners of a mixed-use building in the village. I understand from speaking with her, she is my landlady for my rental, that she encounters very similar issues in which, as much as she loves owning a mixed-use building, the additional costs associated with it imposed by other industries, even after it has been built and rented and taken care of, are extreme. And so I think as these things are surfacing, they are things to keep in mind as we are encouraging folks to build there, because they will ultimately impact what they would have to charge, either to sell or rent. But something I wanted to circle back to from earlier in the conversation, which is an area I think we all get tripped up a whole lot about, whether it is here or planning or EDC or select board, is our infrastructure. And having just met with Dave from the wastewater treatment facility this morning, where we are at is that we have infrastructure and it will serve the people currently on it. It cannot take any more people and it cannot be expanded. It will survive probably for decades longer. It's actually in fairly good condition, it turns out. Dave has been working his tail off for 2 years and has done amazing work on our above ground facilities. We just finished the assessment on the underground pipes and they are apparently in pristine condition.
Wow.
Who knew? And the lagoon style that we have is no longer favored by the state. And there are already a series of towns in the state that are being asked aggressively to change their lagoon style and are beginning what's going to be a very expensive process of switching to a different type of plant. So I just want to name that when we are thinking about this, I think we all, and I say all, I hear it on select board, I hear it from representation from the EDC, this like pie in the sky hope that somehow we will be able to extend the use of our infrastructure to bring in additional building. And I think it's something that sooner than later we need to put to bed and say, no, like it is not, we have, the EDC through TIF funding has done a number of well studies that have come up empty-handed. There are more well studies they could do, like there's more that could happen in terms of but I do, from talking to Dave and then hearing from the water commissioners of Kentucky, these systems are maxed.
So you say it can't be expanded. Are you talking about the water system and the sewer system or one or the other?
I'm talking about both. The water system is also maxed out, so that's why they have the community well that serves a series of houses. There are a number of infrastructure issues that the independently managed water commission, separate from the town, are handling, but they also are dealing with technology that is either incredibly expensive or is being phased out, and so they can't get replacement parts. They're a volunteer organization with what I think to individual users feels like very expensive fees, but for the cost of the system itself are not terribly expensive. So I don't want to say what could be true 5 or 10 years from now, but I will say that if we're talking about getting more units now, and we want to be realistic about the change we can see in town, I don't think we should approach it with any hope that leveraging our current infrastructure could be used. It'd be a pleasant surprise if that was different 3 to 5 years from now. But in the current state, it's not going to fail us. It's going to serve us really well, but it's not going to serve anyone new.
So that gets back go ahead. Well, I guess back to Sam's point about where we could develop, but there were restrictions on where we can develop. Like you can't put maybe a cottage style development without having a community well or without having some kind of septic system that works for that. We can't put it in a place where we could hook up to something. And does that restrict kind of what we do?
Right. I mean, I'm not an expert. I mean, I do think you can have cottage style courts that are not on city water and sewer. It can be done. It's, there are examples out there, but I'm just fascinated, Elizabeth, what you were saying, because it sounds like you're saying, if we want to add new units of housing in the village, in the high density districts, there's really not much capacity.
That is what I'm saying.
See,
And
that's
so
where
that
it
means
surprises-
But that would mean that if that is a direction we feel passionately about, that is like, we really believe that is the area for growth, because I don't believe the changes we submitted for this year, which I still stand behind, are necessarily going to cause a lot of change in the village, right?
No.
But if we're like, you know what, guys, this is it. It means having Dave White, who is our wastewater facility person come to this meeting and talk to us. He is a lovely, smart, dedicated human who works 7 days a week to make sure our system is in compliance and running smoothly. And he knows it in and out at this point. And so it's inviting him in. I think to what Sam is saying, it's about like bringing in all these different experts to pull on those pieces, because that's what he's saying this morning to me and Karen and Steve in our department visits.
Melissa, you
But-
mentioned a community well.
Mhm.
Where is that? What-
Oh, Catherine, you've gone a step beyond my knowledge. All of my knowledge is about like 1 inch deep. And then after that, it falls off.
But because the
Um,
water's coming from the pond up Boundary Road.
So there are, if I remember correctly, there's like 5 houses in a cluster that are on a community well that is managed by the Kentucky Water Commission, and it had to do something with their system. And
Oh, maybe you're talking about Dustin Road, because there were wells contaminated by the
Transfer
transfer
station.
where the.
I could be talking about many different things. So
Yeah, that might be
So
a separate.
that-
It could have
real-
nothing to do really with the water.
Well,
Well, but Dustin down, Little Tookie down.
regardless,
near the transfer station.
No, that-
regardless, it would be about having the water commissioners come and chat with us, right? It would be about having Dave come and chat with us. It'd be about having Dan Blanchett from the DPW come and chat with us, because while we may not be allowed to do private roads, Dan has also said, yo, dudes, like the amount of maintenance we have to do, please don't put any more roads in here. And so it is about working through that, because I don't think these department heads are going to come in here and be like, no. I think they're going to come in here and be like, tell me what the trade-offs are. Tell me what we get as a town if I can somehow magically make this happen, right? Like, because nothing's ever fully a no, but the number of things that have to be true, or the cost we'd have to spend as a town. So we'd want to understand their perspective while sharing ours, and then finding that middle ground if it exists.
I mean, it's not an uncommon issue that, the New Hampshire zoning atlas found that I think only 8% of the land area of all towns in New Hampshire is serviced by public water and sewer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can develop housing outside of that
Yeah.
small area that's served in our town.
And I did not mean, I don't want to accidentally, while we have Sam, like end up in a full infrastructure conversation, but
Yeah.
so many times when I hear in different committees and groups, we get into development conversations, commercial or residential. The thing that I keep seeing everyone spin on is if we could get infrastructure, if we could get infrastructure. And I'm like, at this point, for the number of years I've been hearing that and the lack of
Right.
promising results I have seen, I would like us to spin that question and say, what if we don't have infrastructure? What can we do?
Which is what we should be saying, especially when they're talking about expanding it on the other side of 89, which is ludicrous.
I think that I have yet to hear a person say that they think it is a feasible idea. So I'm not sure
But we spent a
Who-
lot of money studying it.
100%, but I think we know now because of some of that studying that it's not feasible. I think some people had gut instincts about it. And I think that the studies done to date, and there are some folks that say there are more that could be done, shows so far nothing promising. But
That
now we know.
That's the only study we've done, just the 89 issue. Is that the only?
There
thing
was
we've
a,
done?
there was a study done 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We did it when we did the original, plan. Where do you think we might be able to develop? There was never a big engineering study that was like just done.
Yeah.
But we did go and talk to the state about what would it take to go under the highway? And as soon as we talked to the state and got some real information from them, said this is absolutely not feasible.
Sam,
Look.
I'm wondering, is there any low hanging fruit in terms of us trying to figure out where to go next? Because we had this conversation with the planning board, where you said, listen, frankly, allowing conversions to duplex or up to 3 or 4 units isn't going to really make a dent. And there's not a lot of developable lots for townhouses. And we agreed with you that they probably would not be appropriate in the Amesbury neighborhood. Is that NR1?
Yeah,
Yeah.
NR.
No, isn't that
Or
the,
NR.
yeah.
Those
neighborhood
redone
bills.
lists.
Yeah, and so, So I'm just wondering, are there any, where do we go from here? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so,
And I know you've laid out a lot of things we need to consider and think about, and, it's not a simple process.
yeah,
But there was discussion at that joint meet, not joint meeting, the meeting at which we presented about like, hey, we really need to look at density requirements.
Well, before Sam answers the question, one thing, because I remember the moment when Sam started going bloop and said all the things that those of us from housing were like, yes, Sam, please come talk to us some more. And it was in that moment where you were pointing out, rightfully so, like, why this number? Why focus on this number that limits what you can do when the limitation is really about the lot size? Like, there's all these other limitations that you were like, it's kind of arbitrary that we're doing this when it should be driven by other considerations that are the district and the lots and the neighborhood. And I feel like that's how we ended up in this
Yeah.
conversation.
so this is referring to our multifamily regulations, which we classify two different types of multifamily, one that goes up to 12 units and one that goes up to 24. But we have requirements in one of our tables that you need, a base lot size for the district, but then you need an extra so many thousand square feet of lot area per additional unit. And so by the time you get to 24 units, you have this giant lot that doesn't exist in any of the areas where 24 units would actually be appropriate. So to tie it back, I want to tie in infrastructure because, right, so like we look at regulations as a constraint, infrastructure is a constraint, the realities of insurance are a constraint. Like there's all of these things that are just like chopping at the knees of development potential. And while it's easy to focus on one, like from a regulatory standpoint, it's kind of just like, putting blinders on and like, oh, we're only going to work on zoning. But without the understanding of the implications of all the other things that weigh down development, we might not be taking the right steps or doing enough. So improving our understanding is a tremendous step, but that takes time and money, and we have to be really specific about how we're improving our understanding. Like, again, what's the goal, right? It sounds like creating a pathway for development that respects community character and is incredibly context sensitive, but also can occur under market conditions and, with a nod to constraints around infrastructure and all of the other things, right? So you layer all those on top and it's like, okay, well, what land in town, checks all those boxes? Like that's then that product, that map is your target development map. We just don't have the information associated with all those layers to inform what the map is, right? So now this turns to a conversation about, we could go for something, we could put an amendment forward. We're not going to be able to do it in a way and say, like, straight face it, say like, we have done rigorous study, we know this will move the needle. And not to say that has to happen, right? Like we could put something forward and say like, we'll try it, we'll see if there's receptiveness from the development community. We might miss, that's fine. But like, then we just spent powder at the town meeting pushing zoning that may not actually result in anything. You only have so much political capital when pushing forward zoning amendments. You really want to be careful in pushing the right ones. But again, define the goal. Like, what is the end product? What are you trying to, occur? And we target zoning around that. Not to say that like, hey, look, here's all this work that we have to do to, put forward one amendment. Like, I think we should try. And I think that there are things like, yeah, there is low hanging fruit. There are like some fundamental structural things in the regulations that definitely need to be changed. And the Barrett report did a fairly good job of identifying some of those, like removing the cap of 12 and 24 units. Like just if we want to do, units per acre method of regulating density, let that ride, like don't cap it at 12 or 24. I mean, chances are the places that actually could support multifamily, either through capacity and infrastructure, which we don't have, or community sewer and well, which now we're talking about soil mapping and understanding places that actually could support these types of infrastructure. We don't have that information. We don't know where that's appropriate. Maybe it's in that one part of town that, like, if you saw, a 4-story building, you'd be like, why is it there? Oh, because the soils are good for community well and septic. Like, that's just another one of those layers in the map that we need to know to understand. Because I can't speak on community well and septic. I don't know what what the requirements are. I know you need sand. But just another one of those gaps in our understanding in order to really be intentional and informed with putting forward zoning changes. I think generally probably a good practice going forward is just if we're operating relatively blindly, simplify. Just make things simpler. We don't necessarily need to do transformative change because we don't understand enough to actually put forward regulations that actually would result in transformative change. We might be able to define what that transformative change looks like from a character perspective. And that would be great. At least we're articulating a vision, and that's something that we then could work towards. Like that itself is progress. And we could still kind of backfill regulations to kind of get there from like a form and a character standpoint. But until we understand, we know the what, right? We define the what and how it looks. Then we have to do a lot of legwork and understanding to figure out the where. Like, where can we actually put that beautiful building that everyone's going to love? And we just don't know. We could try. Again, you open up the regulations to the development market and say, all right, guys, like, take a stab. Why don't you go deploy your capital and try to do development in town? We'll give you some flexible regulations. It might not work. But those are things that we can't change. We're talking specifically about land use regulations.
But if we're hearing from Jamie that other communities are seeing the development of cottage courts, right, with higher
Yeah.
density, smaller homes and all that. I mean, is that big a gamble to say that, hey, why don't we write some enabling regulations that if somebody wants to do a conservation subdivision and they want to do more density than is currently allowed, and we have some say as to the architecture of what those units look like, all that, like, do we need a study first to do that, or can we just do that?
Well, I think one of the comments you made about, having wells and stuff. I mean, I'm thinking about two of them right now. They are in, like, one's in the village of Keene. And so they're hooking up to the sewer so that they've been able to maximize, the population density because they don't have to have the infrastructure of well and septic. There's one that we're working on actually in Maine, Rumsford, Maine, which is developer picked up close to 48 acres, but 13 acres of it is going to be the subdivision. I think there's going to be 48 homes on there. And so that's a little more off the grid. And so that they're going to have, a larger amount of space, but it's going to be a mix of, cottage style and also a few row houses in there.
Yeah.
So, I think, we're talking about, spots, and where they can be put in. But if you're looking at almost like zero lot line type of housing structure, which is real popular, in the South and so on, you're gonna need, municipality facilities because there won't be the space to put those types of things in place.
And I just, for the recording, for anyone that potentially watches this later, you should always go talk to Karen in the planning department and don't take anything you hear about infrastructure from Alyssa on Zoom as the final call on this. So I just want to make sure that me talking about what I heard from Dave this morning does not make someone go, well, I guess that's gone. It's like, nope, always go speak to Karen. I'm simply sharing what was shared on a high level in another meeting, but that doesn't mean there are not exceptions to the rule. So go speak to Karen.
I'll tell you, Craig Dunning said the exact same thing at the beginning when we first started.
Yeah.
And he said it was purposely built that way,
What was purposely built what way?
the infrastructure, so it couldn't be expanded.
We'll talk later.
On the septic side,
On the septic.
he said, the septic was designed to handle double what we're currently handling. And the water doesn't surprise me, but the septic.
Well, so just to clarify, the septic was designed to handle far more and essentially it petered out, right? And they decided not to at the time add more and also decided not to maintain in a way that would enable future adaptions. And so the system was engineered, designed, and originally planned to be much larger than it currently is. However, that was in the 1980s. And at this time, adding on to the system in that kind of way would require a large upgrade of our above ground facilities. I'm not even talking about the pipes underground, right? I'm talking about our above ground facilities. One thing in all of this. So in Hopkinton, what I've kind of experienced is two worlds. One world that's like, I want more houses. And a lot of opinions about what that looks like to what you're saying, like these dreams and visions of what it could look like or where it could go. And then on the other side, I hear like, I like it just the way it is. And I'm wondering, in Nashville or other places you've worked, if you've dealt with evenly split communities, where really, if we look at survey after survey, when you take different buckets that kind of align with each other and really break it down, it kind of breaks down to like 50-50 in Hopkinton, with a lot of caveats and nuance in there as to what they actually mean. But when it feels like you have a community that's split, what do you do? Like, what have you done or what have you encountered professionally before?
Yeah, I mean, when a community is split, I mean, you go granular, right? So it's like, if you're trying to have a discussion around something, you do a test case. So we like it just the way it is. Well, what if this vacant lot inserts, accepted building type in the area, you drop it there, like, does this ruin it? Yes or no, right? So like if you can kind of just do, it's almost a visual preference survey, right? So, you can take a spot and you do test cases and find out like, okay, like how high and far do we go until it's like, oh, no, then we don't want that. Like, okay, well, there's your line, all right? And then you go back and you say, okay, well, these are the types of things that we have deemed to be acceptable from a character standpoint. Okay, now test it against the market. Can it actually be built? And
See,
if
but
the
you
answer
get-
is no, then we might be out of luck.
You get back to answering his question was where, right? It's like, where could we develop? Just as me, but it's not what we could develop more as it is where we could develop. I mean, put a cottage thing, I think it's a great idea. The question is answering the question about where in town we could do cottage and everything else. And we haven't answered that question.
So the where it's, it's a ability to serve, right? So either from a municipal system perspective, or what can the soils support? What is the context? What's the character of the area? Now, is that form appropriate there? And then do the regulations allow it, right? So like, I think we can kind of handle the last two, right? We can get a sense, we can do some like aerial view, some tax map view of like, what is the character? What are the lot dimension patterns? What are the building types we see in certain areas? Okay, well, like, so we have, to break it down, like you have the buildings, right? The buildings fit on the lots. That is its own character. You string a few lots together. Now you have like a block face, you have a road frontage, and then that establishes a character. And then you string a bunch of those together, and then that creates the character of a district, right? And so that's kind of like the nesting doll approach. And, assuming we got our zoning map right as it currently is, which I think we did an exercise last year that we determined that it wasn't, right? We looked at Amesbury Park and Spring Street, and we found mass nonconformity. Like you could not build those neighborhoods again under current zoning. So, well, all right, is the neighborhood wrong? Is the character bad? Well, no, people love these places. They're happy to live there. So, okay, well, the regulations are wrong. Like, all right, fine. So like that was a clear direction to go fix the regulations. It's not that we made changes that, okay, well, now we're going to fully redevelop Amesbury Park. It was like, no, like if they want to like build a deck, like don't send them to the zoning board for a setback variance, because that what they want to do is totally in keeping with the character. It's just the regulations wouldn't allow them to. So handling character and handling regulations, I think that's totally within our power. I think when it comes to services, so let's not talk about stuff in leaning on municipal services, right? Okay, so we have to rely on the land to provide water and to process septic. You could potentially pursue, and this happens in some municipalities, like a soil-based density regulation. So like, okay, we're not gonna set a density regulation. You go hire your professional licensed engineer or surveyor or septic designer, come back, tell us what this lot can handle. That is tons of test pits, percolation tests. You get an understanding of what actually the land can support. Okay, then come back to the planning board, say, hey, look, these 20 acres, it can support 5 units or it can support 40 units, depending on what it is, right? And then, I think this is a string we'd have to pull on from a regulatory scheme perspective. It's like, okay, well then, so if it's on the higher side, if it's 40 units, maybe that does not fit with the character. What authority then does the planning board have to kind of temper that number? Should they temper that number? But the point I'm trying to make is that, soil-based zoning is a real thing that exists. People do it, and it's been done before and can be replicated here. And it seems like that addresses, if we can couple that with an understanding of context and character, that could potentially knock off a couple of big things where it's like, well, we're letting the land dictate density, and we'll supplement that with some character boundaries around that, if you will. But then we turn it out to the market.
I have a question. All of the polls that the planning board had done a survey, we've done, I don't know how many, multiple polls and surveys. So 2 things that I keep coming back to, 85% of the people said they like the small town rural character. So I think we need to respect that. And the thing that got the highest percentage of people, really the only majority, was people saying they want senior housing. So my question has to do with, what can you legally do? I know you
Yeah.
can't necessarily restrict an area to only senior housing. What can you? You can.
Yeah,
So,
age restricted housing is a thing.
okay,
Yep.
can you educate
Mhm.
me as to what you can legally do, what
Yeah.
the incentives might be, how you?
So there
can
was,
encourage?
it boils down to density. That's like one of the few things, that's like the lever we have to pull, right, as an incentive. But that might run up against rural character, right? So if you're increasing density to incentivize age restricted housing, are we jeopardizing rural character?
And you also have to make that density bonus available for workforce housing.
Yes, that was a state law change.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So that would means that like, okay, so we decide, base zoning is 5 units per acre. We'll give an incentive. You can do 10 units per acre. Hypothetical numbers here. You can do 10 units per acre for age restricted housing, but we also have to apply that to workforce housing. Okay, so that's the thing that we want to move forward with, right? That can be done anywhere. This isn't a district-based thing, unless we're saying, age restricted housing is only permitted in these districts. Then you can tie those incentives to geographic areas of the town. That is the thing that can be done. I think you had mentioned small town character, so people want that. Does everyone have the same vision of what that is? Is small town character Boundary Road? It's small town character the village.
It is to me, I live on Elm Tree.
You also own property in the village though, right? And you have buildings that really add a lot of value, not only from a monetary, but like from a character perspective in the town. Like it contributes commerce uses like that is tremendous in part of creating a community, right? So
Well, when
small town
people
character.
said that, it wasn't so much, what are you asking it to be, as what do you appreciate most about the town? So it's the way they view it as it is now.
Yeah, but then we have to interpret that of like, so I want to write small town character zoning ordinance, like.
Right, and the same.
What does it
and
mean?
I would contend that the same people, and maybe more, are saying, if they were asked, what don't you like about the town, they'd say taxes.
Oh,
Okay,
Oh,
so how do you keep a small town character and taxes low? You can't.
I have a beautiful Venn diagram on my wall at my office, and it is low density, stable services, and low taxes. You cannot have all three.
Right.
You have
That's
to
true.
give one up. You can have high density, which means maybe you're lowering taxes, but you're also able to keep, higher services because, that is creating tax base.
Mhm.
But if the goal is low taxes, you're probably gonna need to either sacrifice services or you're sacrificing
Yeah.
density to keep that
Right.
rural character.
And I'm sorry.
No, I mean, finish your sentence, please.
I was just gonna say, and I think the character in the town for preserving the school system and preserving the infrastructure is greater than people saying, no, cut my taxes in half so I can maintain the character, rather than the other way around. I think people would rather say, I'd like to see more industrial development, commercial development, residential development, so that my taxes come down. We could argue all day about whether residential is going to increase or
Yeah.
decrease. Forget that
Yeah,
argument. All I'm just saying is that if most people were asked, you could pick one thing. Do you want lower taxes, or do you want lower or equal density? 98% would say, I want lower taxes.
I think that's a false choice, and I don't think we have to accept that we would have to reduce services to cut taxes, because when I first moved here, one of the things that drew me here as an educator myself was the reputation of Hopkinton schools as being excellent. Now, I know a lot of things have changed. There's probably more spending on special ed. The state decimated their contribution, the retirement system. I understand all that. But the reputation was there and the taxes were not onerous like this. So I don't believe that it has to be this.
I believe when you and I moved into town back 40 years ago, that was true. It's not true anymore.
I want to give Jamie a chance to weigh in.
Sorry.
I was curious, when you're talking about the expansion, does attracting commerce or small businesses come into the discussion? I mean, as we take a look at, one of the things as a Hopkinton resident, I work all week around the state and I want to come home and I just as soon not leave. Right. But there are things that on a day-to-day basis that are not here because the businesses don't exist. So and interesting with the expansion here is there discussion about how that will also attract in different businesses that will help?
There hasn't been yet, but we can turn in that direction,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think myself, not looking for commercial chains, but, just additional things to keep Hopkinton residents, their money in.
Yeah,
Hopkinton.
no, that's, I mean, so
Or,
that's,
different goods and services or, community events or, bakeries and butchers.
yeah.
We are going
Oils.
to meet with the Economic Development Committee.
Mhm.
Dave and I both were on that committee 20-something years ago. And I think the history is banging one's head against the wall over and over and over, because everything they have tried has not come to fruition. Dave, you know more about this than me, but I think people say they want to increase the tax base, but they don't necessarily want more retail stores or more commercial, whatever, industrial. I don't know what it is, but it seems like we are very much stuck.
The issue really was more, we want more non-residential businesses coming to town, but we don't want any more traffic.
Right. There's Burnham Intervale and
So
other
you
areas.
figure that one out.
You have to walk to the business and walk back home. No driving.
But we don't exercise.
We're gonna put a parking lot along 89. You have to stay here.
From a like a land use regulation, commercial development is easier. It's a use table conversation. It's all right, we'll just permit all of these uses in all the districts. I mean, there's carrot conversation. You don't want
Right.
an Amazon warehouse right in the village, right? There's that conversation to be had. Commercial development is harder because it's totally dependent on market forces, totally outside of the town's.
Yeah, and we're not that attractive.
No, we're not. No, we are not. I mean, yes, we are right on a highway. However, Bow is at the junction. If you are a major business and transportation really drives commercial development, we have a neighbor incredibly close to us who is far more attractive. We are already behind, right? And I don't think there's much, we can't change that. Location, 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 right?
Mhm.
We're not gonna be introducing a new highway. We do have state routes. They intersect with 89. Great. I mean, capitalize on what we have, but there's also then the conversation of, I have a business, I can't hire anyone because no one can live in town and I have to pull from, an hour away. Like, okay, well, then this commercial development now turns back to a housing conversation. And it gets a little circular, but
And just to add some more flavor into that, from a commercial perspective, while we are right off the highway, we don't have the land we think we have to develop. Most of the land off of 89, off of exit 6 is actually wetland, right? A lot of it's underwater a lot of the time. We're dealing with truck issues right now with McLean. The ongoing issue about the trucks that are trying to line up that have to get into McLean to unload their goods. McLean has to follow certain regulations to ensure that trucks for food safety purposes are inspected before they move onto the property past the gate. They don't want to move their gate back because they need to get the trucks in once, like, to close the gate, and then they have nowhere to put the trucks because there's nowhere to put them. There's no land to develop. And so, like, we've been actively in public session meeting with representatives from McLean, which means literally looking at the maps with representatives from the state there as well, because the current chair of some department has been working with McLean for apparently like decades on this and just wants it resolved. And so I think about that commercial issue, that we have a lot of land that looks like it could be commercial, but we have nowhere to put these big trucks. Once they're off the highway, we have nowhere to accommodate them, nowhere for them to basically cell phone lot parking at the airport, right? We don't have that. And so those trucks either park on the side of our roads and create hazards or are circling through our roads, tearing up the roads that we're maintaining because they have nowhere else to go.
That's a perfect example of what does the town want? So we have McLean. How many people they hired? They have 250 employees or something in that range? Anybody know? I'd say 250 or whatever. They're paying a good, I know they have a pilot, but they're paying a good amount of taxes. Okay, they're right off the highway, and the issue that people have in town is that there's trucks parking on the road, which stop traffic. I will tell you that personally, for 4 straight years, I came through there at rush hour. The most that I ever experienced, the most difficult, was 4 trucks along there with only one of them actually in the road, where I might have had to wait 20 seconds for a car to pass before I could go around.
So actually,
But that is the
interestingly,
big issue.
it's not the people waiting behind. The issue is, let's say the trucks are on the opposite side of the road from you. Okay, so you're driving and the trucks are parked over there and you can see them parked and you're like, not my problem. I'm on my side. I'm going this way. And a car behind those trucks decides it can't wait. And it pulls around those trucks and it can't see you. You are just minding your business. You are not behind the trucks. You don't have anything to do with the trucks. And now you have a situation where 2 cars are in very close proximity going very fast toward each other. And
4 years I dealt
this
with it.
happened like 2 months ago.
All right.
And so I'm saying, like, there are issues with it over there. The other thing I want to point out is from a small business perspective. As we're talking about housing, we're talking about mixed use and all of these issues, but it is tough to get a rental space as a small business in Hopkinton. I have spoken to so many other potential small business owners or folks who would love to have a space or get a space. And I know when we were moving spaces and our space became available over in Catherine's building, the number of phone calls I got before they even got to Catherine saying, are you really moving? Are you really giving up your lease? Will that space truly be available? What can you tell me about it? And I know it seems silly because there are 2 empty spaces in the village right now, but the quality of the space and the way in which is maintained by the people who own it matter a lot. And Catherine and Scott have done an amazing job. So I'm just naming
Thank you.
that space is at a high. So as we talk about commercial and we talk about like residential and mixed use, I hope we also just keep thinking about those things that we'd love to see, which not another bakery. I don't want someone else to compete with. Why would you say that?
No,
But
said
but
fish
I
too.
would love to see more businesses because we have such an amazing small business community who's so collaborative, and Hopkinton is so lucky.
I
think one of the
I wanna
things-
just
Except for sale.
I just want to do a quick time check because I want to be respectful of Sam's time.
Sam wants to hang out with us forever. What are you talking about?
And,
He's like,
yeah,
this is
we
the
can
best
listen- we
committee
can
ever.
listen.
Do, but my wife won't let me come back if I can't help with putting the kids to bed.
It's one quick question where everybody was talking about commercial and the trucks. Can there be zoning as to what type of commercial? Because I remember back, and you do, I'm sure, Dave, to Aerotronic, rather than engineering, OD Hopkins, we had engineering firms, created good jobs, well-paying jobs at lots of different skill
Hmm.
levels. Didn't bring in big trucks, so.
These are like professional services, not like manufacturing, right?
Well, there was some manufacturing, Aerotronic, my husband worked there, that was one of the draws to Hopkinton too, he got a job at Aerotronics as an EE. They designed systems and built them there. They did eventually get trucked out, but it's not like a warehouse where there are just constant trucks, it was an occasional truck when something shipped.
Yeah.
So
But there were
So we,
other
we,
good-
we, we permit that sort of a use. Now, how do we attract them?
Well, I'm wondering if you had a commercial zone, can you somehow rule out a warehouse type thing
Yeah.
that's going to have a lot of trucks?
No problem. And I think we already have a pretty robust commercial side of the ordinance that does that.
I think though that's a very good point. And when you talk about commercial development and from EDC perspective, the state has a say in how that can operate. It's not like under just our total control, right? Which you're seeing with the trucks and all the other thing. We could do all we could do to encourage somebody coming there. And then the state could just,
Yep.
helicopter in and change everything we had decided to do.
It's
So
just
I-
a follow-up.
I just want to say that I appreciated your asking us for a vision. Because I think we talk around and around and it always comes back to what we can't do. And I think what would sell people in town, if we do have a vision to present
Mhm.
that is realistic. And I like the idea of the soil testing to see where that would go. I mean, I found that very helpful, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's really, really appreciate you giving us your time and sharing your insights with us. Super, super helpful. You've left us with a few things to think about.
Mm,
Good. And
That's
don't
good.
don't limit the vision to just what does it look like? Say, we want beautiful homes and we want low taxes. Okay, fine. Really set a lofty goal and then we'll figure out how to get there. The more finely you can define the vision, the easier it is to get there in a way.
That's what I think, and
Great-
it'd be easier.
Great conversation.
Right, it's easier for people to understand and not just say, no, I don't want to change. this."
And I'm pretty sure the town's working on its master plan, so that's very much where that vision lives. The master plan sets the vision, the land use code manifests that vision through regulations.
Who is working on the master plan? Is it the select board?
Planning board's a little bit involved, but I think it's CNHRPC, they're doing the work.
Who is?
The planning commission, Mike Tardif and his crew.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, the select board does not actually own the master plan. The planning board does.
Yeah.
Because they are planning. The select board's like your day-to-day operation
Yeah, yeah.
and the planning board's your long-term planning.
All right. Thanks again, Sam.
thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam. That was awesome. Thank you, thank you. And thanks, Jack, for inviting him.
Yeah, I mean, we should bring more people in, for sure.
Can I just say, this brings me back, sorry, when he was talking about the vision and like what would look good in what areas and what do we see? And I now finally understand that exercise that Barrett kept doing at all these different community events where they had the stickers and they're like, put the stickers of the type
Right.
of housing you want. And I'm like, oh, you took this really complex concept and simplified it into stickers, but didn't fully explain. And I was just sticking stickers everywhere because I was like, these stickers are fun,
Right.
but
I mean,
I get it now.
I will confess, I don't know where to go now. I mean, this was a fascinating conversation, but I felt like he just asked us a ton of questions and laid out a lot of research. And I'm not sure, I was trying to get him back to sort of like, well, okay, what's in the Barrett report that might be actionable? So anyway, I'm just curious how everybody else feels.
I think so. What you just said about, we're spending time on like making development easier, but we're not defining what we want that to look like
Yeah,
or where we can do that.
yeah,
And so do we step back and say, okay, where can we do, what do we really want? What do we want? right? And where could we put it? And then write the ordinance that gets us there. Because, and I keep going back to the conservation ordinance that we did where we said you take 50% and you do this.
Right.
Though I think we've had some disagreement that turned out the way we thought it was going to turn out.
Yeah.
That's not, we like the idea, we just didn't sort of, the end result wasn't exactly what we were thinking about doing.
Right. I mean, in terms of the where, I mean, would it make sense to have Karen come in and talk to us about what she knows about all the zones in town and
Yeah.
where the available land is?
I still like to tie all that back to somehow to your point about the town property. Is there anything the town can do that could help us? And I don't know.
Wasn't there some conversation when Neil was here about land? It's back off 202 around where,
Parts Corner.
yeah.
That's been problematic. It's a good location.
EDC has
for a
done
mixed
nothing
use
on it.
Because it's right on the highway.
EDC has
202.
done nothing.
But isn't
That's
that
right,
because you can't get water or sewer out there? Isn't that one of the hangups?
You can't, but nobody's even sat down with the Hearts and had the discussion of what can we do here?
So my concern was,
For no one in a long time anyway.
my concern was with that location, trying to get out onto 202. If you have families and older people, mixed housing, that's not, but now with the Rotary.
Yeah.
That's gonna slow traffic down there and that's gonna make it more doable.
But I think when
Access.
Anna's doing economic development work, she attempted to have conversations with them. I thought it was unsuccessful.
Okay,
I'm not sure about that, but anyway,
so I think she did. Ask her if she ever talked to anybody.
yeah, I don't know.
So page 134, 135, 136 of the annual report list all the properties that are associated with the town.
Yeah.
I have no idea like what any of this means in terms of like, if you say, well, worth like, yeah, you get a couple different like
Yeah.
Main Street address, but I don't know
Yeah, but they're like the
availability.
corner.
It could be.
5 feet. on
Right,
one
right.
corner.
But I mean, maybe this is just a starting point.
I think
Maybe not.
out of this conversation, it feels like there's two branches that need to happen simultaneously. And one is that refining of the vision. What are we actually striving for? And so a check-in with Karen to find out what the process, where in the process the housing master plan is, right? And just understand when is the last time it was updated, when the next time it's going to be updated, and how are they gathering that data,
I think
right?
the housing chapter was quite recently updated. That was like at the beginning of this committee, that was.
But
that
we
was-
provided input.
We provided input.
I don't know
yeah, so
whether-
it's.
Fantastic. But we still want to know the next time, right? Because master plans are on a cyclical schedule for getting updated, and what can
Right.
feel like it just happened yesterday is about to happen again tomorrow. Because time passes like that, right?
Mhm.
And I think figuring out how to run some of the more basic exercises Sam said, which is what if we as a committee for funsies took a lot in a different zone and we could go through different zones, right? And dropped something on it and had that thought exercise and really talked about, okay, we talk about these zones in the abstract all the time, but let's take an open lot or a house for sale or something. Y'all, AI and Canva, we can drop really bad looking things on top of it and just get a gut reaction to it, right?
You're kind of going down a path I was thinking about. I think a lot of people have a hard time visualizing, and in the absence of visualizing, fear kicks in.
Right.
Right. Well, because
So it's-
when we describe these things, as he said,
Yeah.
like what is rural character? And we might all say something vaguely similar, but we're all imagining something in our head as we speak that isn't.
Right.
So what if
I thought that was a good idea too.
Yeah.
it could be fun.
So I want to be on the record. I'm not volunteering my wife because she'll kill me for this one, but she's doing some amazing things with the very thing we're talking about. And it is amazing what you can create without having a professional service to do it with AI these days.
Yeah.
And, with a series of pictures of a particular lot, and then knowing how to prompt AI to begin to draft that out, it may help a lot of people visualize this instead of, allowing them to kind of draw their own conclusions.
And so there is this exploration of vision
Mhm.
and making sure that we are on the same page about that vision. Now, I do think that at the end of the day, we are on the same page about a lot. So I wouldn't want to spend like 3 years on this. We're on the same page about senior housing, right? We're on the same page about not wanting to put bananas developments out in our lower density areas. So I don't want to spend time like recreating the wheel on this, but maybe taking our higher density and medium density zones and dropping some things in them to be like, where is our like appetite for change? Even knowing that infrastructure may not support them, but just understanding our appetite for what is above ground. While at the same time, separately from that, is taking that list that Dean had and actually pulling it up on the tax map and crossing off everything that is like a tiny parcel that doesn't count and seeing what's left.
Right.
Maybe Karen already has a list, right?
So
Would one next step be we invite Karen to the next meeting? And ask her to sort of brief us on what she knows about the zones and,
I would just ask her for the information. So I would start by saying of the properties that are currently owned by the town, what are potentially buildable or sellable lots, whether or not the town is legally allowed to build or sell on them right now.
Does that?
but I
square
think
footage
that's
or
a
anything? It's just. an-
yeah, as acres.
first.
It does
I
make
think
acres.
sense for where, what's developable now.
Okay. She might also have a list of that too. So I want to be mindful that yes, absolutely invite her, but I also just, if there's things that can be given in writing ahead of time, so it's not just like verbally communicated, that'd be cool.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Oh yeah, I'm mindful that because these things are hard data, right? What is developable land? What plots could actually be buildable? Because they're not just like
Right.
a triangle in the middle of a street. That might be lists that she physically already has. So absolutely inviting her, but I don't necessarily, if she were to communicate that to me orally, I'd be like, cool, can we get a list? And so my thought is rather than waiting to the next meeting to talk to her, and then after that meeting, she sends us a list, could we ask if she has
Sure,
those things documented already?
sure.
But
She
there's-
might.
There's also property in town that's not being used for anything today, that's not owned by the town,
Yeah,
but it is quote unquote available, right? It's not available, but it's like there's something on it. It probably needs to be torn down, rebuilt to something else. Like, a takeaway for us is how could we do that? How could we, get that, to a design stage somehow, right? Instead of just letting it just sit there for 50 more years, right?
right. Although I don't think we can,
Privately owned.
Yeah, no, I get it, but
one
What do
by
we do?
one, one lot at a time would take forever.
no, I know, I
Yeah.
know.
Uh,
But I don't think there's a 50-acre parcel somewhere that we can.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the
But
point, and that's the whole map thing that
So,
Sam was talking
well,
about.
I will ask Karen if she can provide us with a list, both of town-owned parcels that might be buildable,
Yeah.
and then otherwise, what she's aware of in terms of.
I see Dave laughing. There's a lot of things on there. It's a town-owned property is it's an A to Z, right? So you get the schools on there, right? The
Well, the
town
schools aren't
hall's
on there.
Well, the town hall's on there, or some turnarounds on there. There's some little stuff, it's some big stuff, and there's conservation stuff on there too, probably. That was stuff donated to the town. So you need to just pare that down into like what really is available.
I
if
think
anything.
having that sense of inventory then lets us know, like, because if all of the available, like truly available stuff are in lower density, that is a different conversation, right? Versus if there is some in higher density or medium density, and it helps guide the conversation so that we're not talking about these high density ideas in low density areas out of respect for what many people in the town enjoy about why they live in the neighborhoods they live in. Because someone chooses to live near the village for a reason, and someone chooses to live on a dirt road for a reason.
I have a question on Sam mentioned the townhouse thing. And the recommendation from the planning board was to review the NR zone of Amesbury Park, which I think also includes Kearsarge and Spring Street as NR. I think they all became.
Yeah,
So because he said it wouldn't really fit, how is Amesbury Park significantly different from, say, Woodland Drive?
Maybe they have bigger lots, I don't know, but what distinguishes Amesbury Park that we would say it shouldn't go there, but it could go in similar looking?
I do think it has smaller
Neighborhoods.
lots. I'm speaking off the cuff here, but I'm relatively sure that Amesbury, because it is basically its own zone, right? Like has much smaller lots. And the idea was that the houses on the road, which one? Woodland, right? Woodland houses are much taller. Most of Amesbury are 1 story, 1.5 story. Most of the houses on Woodland are 2 story. And so a townhouse generally has 2 stories.
Oh, no,
So
they're
it-
Amesbury one-story houses.
I believe, because that's what came up in the planning board meeting, is I believe they're like
Okay, so
1.5
story there.
apes.
Not 2 story, story and a half.
So a townhouse would tower over most of the houses in Amesbury. A townhouse wouldn't tower over houses that are
He was
equal
looking, he
to
was
story.
talking more about like the aesthetics of kind of how it looked, I think, is what he was saying. It wouldn't look right there.
I was relatively sure in the planning board meeting, he was talking about height as
Yeah.
well, and the fact that it would be like short house, really tall house, short house, versus the neighborhood where it is of comparable heights. So it would not stand out as much.
Did you know that Park Avenue is 30 units?
Of what?
Park Avenue apartments are 30 units? You did?
Yeah, I know someone who was there.
Yeah.
What are we doing with all these properties that are acquired by tax deed? Are they on the market for sale or?
No, so there's a lot behind that. So when a house is acquired by tax deed, there are a number of regulations and laws that dictate when and how we might be able to sell it someday. And there's a lot of opportunities for the homeowner, previous homeowner, and or their heirs to acquire the property. And the process takes
There's a waiting.
a
What's-
very
What's the
long
current policy,
time.
the select meeting policy?
we don't have a policy. The state has RSAs. So like,
Well, that's
what-
3 years, right? You can take it by tax lien and then,
so we can take it by tax lien. It is by a private vote, and it is generally after a discussion with the homeowner to try. So the unofficial philosophy of the current select board is we want to keep people in their homes.
sure.
And so within reason and with respect to the other homeowners and property taxpayers in town, we do our best to work with each homeowner to keep them in
Even
their
after
home.
But you
3.
know what? I think it,
I'm not going to say, I'm not going to apply that to say that they could get back on track and then lapse again and the whole process starts over. So there are some houses that you might see on there for multiple years, but actually the clock has restarted for various reasons. So,
All right, I'm gonna call a timeout.
yeah. I was like, it's so Dave, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
our meetings were so.
I was gonna ask if you guys back on track.
I'm gonna propose a 2-minute break so everybody can stretch, use the restroom if they want. And then I think we gotta get through some of this agenda.
Yeah.
It's all been great
Yeah,
discussion.
but Dave, it's a really good question. May I recommend, if you want to know much more, because it really is specific, like house by house, like,
There's 16 properties on it.
why do you think we have so many non-publics?
Why is that non-public?
No, I said, why do you think we have so many non-publics? Is we're generally processing through. So,
I don't know anything about it, so.
yeah, but Karen is the person to speak to get the high level like information.
Bring it your own.
And each one is its
Good.
own
Good.
story with
Yes,
a
I
human
wasn't
behind
there
it.
because
And
I
we do
didn't
our
know
best
that.
to
I
keep
took
the
it.
human
I agree.
at the center of that.
Same
Note of the page numbers.
200%,
for taxes than.
34, 5, 6.
200%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is very much.
Situation.
Oh, you can have that one if you want it.
Oh, there, and
Okay.
there is availability and vacancy here in the cemetery.
Yeah.
If you're interested.
Yeah, that's what I thought, I saw that.
Mm,
It's a one-time cost too.
Okay. Thank you. I've had to use the bathroom for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I
of
was,
course,
like,
thanks.
fixing, so like, thanks.
Yeah, everybody, it's a long stretch. I was at a physical therapist today, working on my abs. I don't want to sit for 3 hours without it.
You should go to a savings bank Walpole board meeting then.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you got to pack a lunch. Wait.
yeah. Legislative session too sometimes.
Yeah.
Just hearings can go on for hours.
Some about here.
But I don't know, like.
So what's going on with mortgage rates?
Just take this map.
We're down a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Down to 6.5.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
anything. on this
They've been
page,
up for a bit,
I didn't
but,
see anything. on
we
this
had,
page
I tell you,
that's-
our three
that
banks
you
put
could even
together.
Consider, nothing.
we had a,
But on this,
such an
page,
incredible. amount.
all, you know, anything here to me, which is more.
Three
than
banks together, we did over 50
Is the
million.
whole.
Exactly.
I
It was one of the things that we talked about. We did three choices, right? Was cottage.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some new construction in there.
Or not.
There's things going on. There's so many.
Whoa, that would have done you back then.
We're seeing.
You're already.
Yeah, we're seeing.
They would have carried me out of here.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see more listings. Oh, yeah. But, you know, news is.
Have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you start running, you start running fast stats, you enhance the housing,
I think there's.
or New Hampshire realtors.
Two.
Which I track.
I think you
Yeah.
build it, gave
Yeah,
you some.
we're seeing,
Okay, but I think there's two.
we're starting to see days on market increase.
Yeah.
Which is a good
One of
indication
those-
that we're moving out of the
It
seller's
looks,
market.
it looks like a house. It looks like a house. It looks like a colonial house, but that's the one with the
Like
columns.
1850s guy.
There's no water, there's no electricity
Didn't happen.
in there.
It's
There's nothing.
You know, for the last 100 years.
And the guy.
And in fact, they were actually.
Mark's
back
handle
I know.
has done nothing to it.
Yeah,
I
people
would-
built the house
I
next door,
would say,
say, 3 years
rather
ago,
than-
but it's sight unseen from Seattle.
Bad.
Hey, I'll figure it out once I
It's a
get.
great
Well, it's
location.
not saying, so we're moving back into a more balanced.
Tax thing.
Maybe.
But, you know, but
Quite
that
a
also.
background there.
you
A
know,
lot of
when
seasonals.
Housing prices start to relax a little. Properties are not a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah, well.
Reading your articles, I mean, through May, I mean, we hit a whole new high for the price point in May.
The problem,
All 70 something.
Yeah, built.
If that ever became available, it would
Yeah.
not want it for affordable housing.
You know, it certainly, there's warnings.
No.
Okay, about.
Didn't want something like Joe Silver.
Was there in relation to this subdivided that?
641.
All right.
David asked.
Absolutely. But he's not spending money too.
No, he's
So-
let us do it.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to get started.
I'm on vacation, but I'm not. Doing all the home repair stuff that I have not had time to get done, so.
Organization.
How much time do you have off? Just this
We
week?
took off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. So it's a quiet banking week.
Right.
You know, so it's a good time to take off.
I agree. It was like,
about
charter discussions.
But
So the ones.
then we hit the summer stretch and
Hot though to do any work.
yes.
Oh, my goodness. I go out and I try to do some gardening early in the morning and
How's the selling you?
I'm sapped.
Yeah, oh, we've got a pool and so
Unless you want.
Oh, that's.
at late night dips just to bring the body temperature down. It helps us a little bit too, so.
Well, there may be some here, Dean, but a lot of them.
Maybe,
Things
I
that
think
wouldn't
kind of on the other side, maybe that,
We're on.
maybe on this property, yeah, maybe that.
Deer flies are out.
So you'd have to get rid of all the sandy beach way.
We haven't seen.
Yeah, but like, the point is,
No.
but here's the thing, let's cross off.
Think your flies-
What we cross off.
Think
I-
with
Flies have been pretty much non-existent too last couple.
No, yeah, black flies have not been,
Yeah.
And there may be,
well,
there
we
may
have
be
the.
privately owned property around
Those-
town that's just sort of not being.
Congregate there and then
used,
further
that, like,
street, there's
if you
a lot
have
of
a
wet-
conversation with people,
Yeah,
you just
congregate
never,
there too.
you know,
Had,
try to get a
when we
yes or
first
no.
moved in the first
People
couple of
own
years,
something and it-
at dusk, I mean, we
This
just.
abandoned building says, we never talked to you.
I know.
We'd never
No,
go there. Hey,
because, you know,
hey,
go take the insect rays, mosquitoes and all
Boundary
this.
Road.
That, yeah.
That-
that's
And.
not-
Early on, in Bedford,
But if you don't,
kind of
if you
abuts
don't
the
ask,
house.
you never know yes or no.
Well, the house, which was totally dilapidated,
Yeah.
overgrown, disaster, burned down.
Yeah.
all right,
More or less is-
you ready?
Yeah.
And there's only a small garage. It's like.
Any
old asphalt,
organization,
But a nice piece of land.
Flies.
Scott actually had
very
to the owner at
low
one point saying, if you're
interest
interested in selling, but
to
they're
committees
supposedly
like
paying
ours
property
that
taxes
want
on it year
buy
after year after
property
year.
to sit
They
on,
don't seem to want to sell it.
who we had the right use. which is.
At least you're at least.
Successful economic development meetings do. Successful economic development organizations.
So you have the bakery in town?
I have witching hour coffee right now. It's
I haven't been in your store.
I know.
a little bit strange, I'll be honest, a little weird, but.
Dave says, taken by him and his name.
Glad it was Pittsburgh.
The town could do it, but
Yeah.
that,
Enough to go.
Where I had it.
bad, no, that leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
No, I'm not big on.
I said, maybe you should annex the
Do
state
you
fair.
different trade shows or?
Because we don't, we get out of that, we get, well, we get.
So
revenue.
if we have a
We get a
whole-
dollar. and-
We have
A lot of
different
traffic.
businesses in
Yeah.
town that are part of the same, business. We have the cafe right in the center of town, you can get a cup of coffee, you can bag, yeah.
Right.
If you stop in there next to Leanne's building,
Yeah, yeah.
in Leanne's
Big
building.
house.
Big
You
house.
have seats, you can sit down, you can
Put it-
order
I-
Wi-Fi, they
I
have
don't-
snacks,
I-
and
no,
then-
Like every Friday morning, my wife.
Great
takes her
benefit to
son,
the whole thing, but
and I
you
still
know,
get
I mean, it doesn't put
blueberry muffin
it may give
or
a
scone.
little bit
Somebody else.
stuff in
comes.
town.
It's always good
you know,
to
but
depress.
I don't think our commercial.
That's
you know,
great.
Yeah.
I have.
Well, that's just been that.
In the town,
Buy that.
the people who run it.
We're building,
seem to be like.
we're very big on
Get a
the
developer.
Town favorites.
Wanted-
They don't-
Been
they
very
don't give
lucky.
any kind of-
We,
And I just use that
utilization,
now.
Catherine's building.
Right, right. And that puts us in the
As
business.
coffee
You know,
roasters.
A lot of the
our
things
freshers,
that the town-
the retail state,
That was it.
retail dish selling,
Right, fair, state fair,
because
you know, that.
we've been
And-
popular,
Part of the
we want to
capital.
share
It is.
It is.
Whether you like it or
lifestyle.
not. Right.
Well, we used to take our kids. when they
Phenomenal
were-
growth of the community.
Never altitude.
Oh, hey, that's exactly.
All right, at Alyssa's suggestion, I'm gonna set a goal, which is that we get out of here by 7:30.
Oh,
We get done. we
Second.
get Done,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's a solid 2 hours. I think that's reasonable.
yeah.
So let's see what we can get through. I'll go back up to the top, review and approval of the draft meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
from Dave, seconded by Dawn. Discussion. I have one little typo,
Yes.
on the first page, under the second black bullet, May 7th minutes. Second sentence ends with, and the tense OPF should just be of.
Okay. On first page.
That's all I got. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, would you, Dave, change your motion to as amended?
As amended.
Second.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the minutes are approved. Great. The planning board meeting, we've talked about in part, I mean, it was very interesting. I heard from Sam beforehand and he said to me, I'm not really sure what you guys are up to because I don't really see these changes having much of an impact. And then, he said also, I'm not sure that you need language on conversion because that may substantively already be allowed. And at the meeting, Alyssa pushed back and said, well, wait a minute. Our point is to the average person reading these regulations or to a developer, it's not explicit. It doesn't say conversions are allowed. And so I think the planning board heard Alyssa on that and said, okay, that makes sense to us, to have specific wording for conversion to duplexes and also conversion to up to 4 units. And then Sam said, well, you really can already convert to 4 units. So this doesn't really change much because you're still doing it by special exception. What if you allowed it as of right? And the planning board, he basically said, on behalf of the planning board, what if we change this proposal to allow conversions of up to 4 units as of right in the districts that in your proposal are by special exception? So that idea was thrown out there. We said we had no objection, but obviously we have to check back with this committee. And so that was one idea that was discussed. And then, as I've mentioned already, on the townhouse item, the planning board seemed comfortable with that. Sam objected to NR. We said, fine, we're okay with that. But that is something we have to bring back to the committee here. So, I mean, you guys let me know if you want to have a vote on that. We can vote on it. prefer that we do it at our next meeting when we've got some of the newer members as well, but happy to do a vote on either of those changes. And then there was this larger discussion about density. Because I had said to Sam, right now, if you allow 4 townhouses, the dimensional requirements later in the code say that for each unit, you need another 8,000 square feet. So that leads to an absurd result, like you know, it'll never work out. Like just to put a 4-unit townhouse, you might need half an acre or an acre, but then you'd have to require all this extra land. So there should be an exemption from those requirements. And at that point, Sam said, well, then you've created, you know, inconsistency, because if you were just going to build a 4-unit multifamily building, they would be subject to those same land acquisition requirements. So his point was this should be part of a larger discussion about density requirements. So the planning board basically said, like, no, we're not going to exempt townhouses from the extra land acquisition requirements. That it would be premature.
So,
They basically said there should be a more thoughtful, comprehensive discussion about density requirements.
In support of maintaining or in support of,
I think in support of looking at them, considering whether they make sense as they're written or whether they should be loosened or.
so there, so more so to be in curiosity, are these?
Yes, they basically said, we think the next step would be for both of our committees to like look at the density requirements as a whole.
Because if there's no flexibility on the density requirements, there's no sense in really going down the cottage home paths and all that stuff.
Well, right, exactly. So it was a very positive meeting. I would say the chair seemed really pleased, which was nice, and encouraged. And I sent him a follow-up note thanking him and just saying, here's what, I think we all discussed. Let me know if I've got it wrong. And,
you discussed the 3 things that we voted on here already and said,
Yes.
let's come to the planning board.
yes,
Do we?
And your
do we
planning board
need-
did-
We don't need to vote again here, right? We need them to kind of take it away and make suggestions and changes?
yes. I mean, Mike
Okay.
basically said, this is preliminary. We need to spend more time on this.
Okay. I thought earlier you said, do we wanted to, like, did we?
Sorry, just to clarify really
If-
quickly.
If we needed to.
In the meeting, I thought that collectively they gave very constructive and specific feedback in which there would be only 2 edits, 1 to each of, and 1 edit was the allowing by right instead of special exemption in one of them, and the other was removing NR. And I think Jack wants to say, like, just want to confirm that that change is fine, and then they're going to keep going with it, but that was
The
the,
planning board do what they need to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Mike basically said,
Correct.
we'll take it from here. And
yeah.
Yeah.
But Jack's basically saying, do we all still believe in them with these changes? That way we're not surprised when it pops up that way later. I-
Can you,
Oh, the last thing I was going to say, I promise, and then Catherine, I want you to go next, is I also think we had a good conversation about scale of change and the idea that we are aware that what we proposed is not going to result in entire neighborhoods looking different, and that for us, a win is just a few developments, right? Because I think there was some being like, but this isn't going to result in like a whole bunch of new buildings. So why are we doing this? And we were like, whoa, this is Hopkinton. We're not trying to generate 100 new units. Every new unit is a win. And I think that that was heard and appreciated and understood that what we were putting forward wasn't revolutionary because we understand the pace of change and we weren't looking to flip the town.
But I think the density conversation was, okay, if you want to really dig into
Correct.
that's where we go next.
Yeah. But not what we put forward.
No,
Right.
no. Um,
I interrupted Catherine.
yeah, so that was pretty much it.
can you refresh my memory on the conversion to a 4? You said that they recommend doing it by right instead of special exceptions.
Exactly.
Which zones were included in that? Did it go up through R2?
I should be able to tell you that if I can find the right folder.
Don't recall it including R2.
It's on that Barrett summary page, but I left mine home.
So. Normally.
I think it was on the A10, 36 A10.
Yeah.
Conversion of
Yeah.
existing single detached dwellings to multifamily with a maximum of 4 units
Yeah.
per building.
Right, so it says not allowed in R3 and R4. Allowed by special exception,
In all the other
R2,
ones.
R1, NR,
Yeah, so it doesn't,
PR1, VB1, and B1. And what Sam proposed was take those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, take those 6 districts,
Except the NR.
except the NR, sorry, so 5.
This is, what-
Yeah,
this is what we have proposed.
Right.
State needs exception of that and be by right, which will make it consistent with an existing consistent with if you were building new, what you would be allowed to do and what you said, one of the points that he made, which resonated with me, was if you have a 4-unit building, okay, and if help me with the scenario here. He said, if you have a building there and you want to convert it to a 4-unit building, okay, you can't do it unless you went and you got a special exception. But if you were building new, you could build it by right.
Or you could knock it down and build it by right.
Or you could knock
Yeah.
it down.
He was like, don't incentivize them knocking it down.
It just didn't make sense. So we all thought that was pretty insightful of him to.
I just had a concern about the R2 zone in particular, but you're saying that in R2, they can build a 4-unit now?
Our
I think it was,
recommendation was by right in R2 and R1.
You mean the planning boards?
that was Sam's recommend, that was Sam, no,
Sam said,
For
Ours
this,
is right here.
yeah,
right, but the other ones, okay. Are by right.
I thought he changed the special to by right is what he did, right?
yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
In R2 down, up to whatever those, yeah, whatever that was.
yeah.
Well, this one, A9. So A6 is maximum of 4
Yeah, you're
units.
referencing this, right?
You did, you
But to
got,
have-
Are you-
to have all that, it's not even better for it.
Page 6, right?
yeah, I did.
A10 is the one that
A10 on
is
page 6.
conversion to up to 4 units,
Yeah.
where Sam said, let's change that from special exception to by right.
This is the townhouse one.
Okay, okay, yeah, E6, so this is A9, E7, A9. There.
That's a 2-family. It's not that one either.
It's A10.
Yeah, this A10 is the one that we're changing, but the A10, the way we changed it was to make it consistent with the existing building rights.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
R2 was S.
Well,
He
they
said
put
change
N-
it to by right,
Hmm.
right? R2 was S, right? Special exemption, and
Yes.
he suggested by right instead of S.
Right.
Yes, not just in R2 though, in all the districts.
Oh, I thought he was,
Yeah, it's
Because-
all,
well, not R2, but R2 backwards. He left 3 and 4 as still
yeah.
X, but it was R,
All of the
Two,
ones that,
whatever.
all of the ones that we listed as special.
Yes,
exception, he's
correct.
changed it to-
yes.
All right. Okay. Item 5 is discussion of priorities for 2027. I think we did that with Sam, and we have a next step of finding out about available land in town from Karen. Do we want to dig into proposed revisions to the committee's charter, or do we want to skip
No.
to board and committee updates? Board and committee updates?
Yeah.
Okay. Dawn, you got anything?
The Human Services Committee doesn't meet until Tuesday, so there's no update from last time.
I can't hear you.
The Human Services Committee meets the first Tuesday, but that's next week, so this meeting preceded it. I don't have a report.
Okay.
Okay. Dean, anything new? on the planning board?
I think you two extended the meeting. I was in Texas, and, Karen, I talked to her yesterday. She's working on the minutes and they might be out. Our next meeting is the 14th, I think, July.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have Norm here for the Economic Development Committee or for the Water Commission. Alyssa, anything you want us to know about the select board? Other than what you told us about the infrastructure conversations, which was pretty relevant and fascinating.
No, the only thing I was going to talk about was the conversation with the wastewater facility. And again, Dave is an amazing human. If you are on Facebook, I'd like to plug that Dave runs a Facebook on behalf of the wastewater facility treatment plant, where he posts pictures of what he finds that we all flush down our toilets that shouldn't be. And it is hilarious and informative. And I do recommend giving him a follow and engaging with him.
Wait, so is that like a group Facebook page?
It is not a group Facebook page. It's like, it is a Facebook page and you can follow it. And then he posts about what's happening in the sewers in Hopkinton.
Okay.
I think it is the model.
Are not flushable. Don't
What'd you
ever
say?
flush
Oh,
them.
flushable wipes are not
Not
flushable. Yeah.
Question.
Slow TV night.
Is that not named correctly? I'd never heard of water commission.
So.
The Kentucky Water Commissioner.
Village precinct.
Precinct. Water.
Water and sewer, but
Yeah.
it's the village precinct.
Well, they're not sewer, they're just water.
They're what?
So the Water
It's a
Commission.
water precinct,
Yeah,
which has 3 commissioners.
correct. They're an independent organization.
And
The
then-
two villages each have their own distinct governmental bodies. In Hopkinton Village, it is the Hopkinton Village like planning board, right? So they have their own planning board. Kentucky doesn't have that. What Kentucky has is their water commission. So they have, and also came about in the 1950s about the same time as Hopkinton, but it just pertains to the water only.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning. I've never heard it referred to as the water commission, and I just wonder. if
I think that was just shorthand. I
No,
think
it-
we're all just tired.
Yeah, I think that's an official title.
Yeah.
Is it
We
normal?
call it
is
the
it normal-
Kentucky Village Precinct because they handle the water.
Yes.
Also the Christmas trees, but I
Yeah.
think people know it as Kentucky
Yeah,
Village.
I think that's right.
I think Norm's the treasurer for that, isn't he? Wasn't he?
Minor point.
But is that in one of these documents? that you-
No, it was just, we just spoke and said the wrong word
Oh,
quickly.
okay.
And I thought if people are reading minutes, they're going to see water commission and
I promise, I will type out the right name. I promise. It'll be in here. Yeah. They,
Um, so we'll come back to the charter at the next meeting. And when should our next meeting be? I always forget. Is it the first Thursday?
Thursday.
First Thursday, yeah.
So that would bring us to
6th.
August 6th.
Yep.
Jack,
And some committees, I will say, some committees take a month off in the summer. Like, do we all want to meet in August? I'm fine with that. But I'm also open to if people want to take a month off and come back in September.
if we
I would
take
have
the
taken
month,
this off.
if,
I would have taken tonight off.
if we take the month off, is it going to put us behind on finalizing anything for the, because you had mentioned you wanted to just vote on the thing for the final changes for the planning board, but if that's just a,
They're asking.
Oh, we weren't doing.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
You guys want to go with September?
I am not available in August 6th.
Okay.
So.
Do we want to just have the meeting so we can talk to Karen, or do you want to just wait until September?
I think I can probably wait. And
I'm good.
I'll also talk to her if I get
Yeah.
information, I can distribute it.
Perfect.
Okay.
See you in September.
Wait, September what though?
I don't know, the first.
September 3rd?
third.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Jack, I'll send you an email with those suggested changes so they can be pre-read. That would be read before the meeting.
That would be great. Okay.
Is
all
that a
right.
fair day?
September 3rd,
Could be.
feels like it.
Thursday, isn't that
Oh, is
Town night?
that county night?
town night?
No, hang on. I could have sworn that was at the end of, give me 1 second. Give me a
Thursday, the
second.
night before,
This is
Thursday's usually
to
the,
Labor Day, right? So it would be the Thursday.
It's that
Is Labor Day that week though? Or that,
It's the
that
first
late?
Would be
Wednesday
the
is the
Monday
first
after.
Monday, so it would be the Monday after the Thursday.
Hopkinton State Fair is September 3rd through the 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's third is that's the
Or
third.
that is
day.
excuse me.
Problem?
County night.
That's Tony.
County
I
night.
know, but we're meeting here.
I won't be able to make it, unfortunately. I will be taking Owen to go to the fairgrounds.
I
If
see.
My son's, we'll be taking my son too.
Got
I don't take Owen,
Yeah.
he's only 6, but he is strong, guys.
Do it on that Wednesday if we can get a room,
I would love to meet on that Wednesday. That sounds delightful.
Yeah.
September 2nd, and I'll
Awesome.
talk to Karen Hamilton about getting a room.
Thank you.
Okay. All right,
You ready to entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:29 and a half?
yes. Second,
Move. Second.
favor,
All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
opposed,
No.
motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good job.
Hey, the back building is for sale. If you want to get that and start building over there anytime.
Bank?
Yeah, the TD Bank building.
Okay.
I saw that got listed.
Yeah, it did. It did.